So I did watch Demon Slayer Infinity Castle, and let me tell you, that movie is something special. This was my first time watching any Demon Slayer, anything really. I haven't seen the series, I haven't seen any of the other arcs, but this movie was a spectacle to watch. It really was. And as an anime fan in general, I can appreciate what they did with the movie and the amount of time they took to cook with this movie, the character development, the story. Even though it starts right where it left off from, I believe, the Hashira training arc, from what I've heard, that is something I can appreciate in something like this because when you take time to bring other people up to speed, you kind of lose quality in a movie like that. For the reason being, you're spending some of that time just rehashing some things that have already happened, and then you don't take as much time to really focus on the new aspects or new perspectives or new things in a series like this. So I do appreciate the fact that they did that. Even though I haven't seen the other arcs, it's something that I can agree with. And the character development was actually crazy good for the amount of time that this movie was on, which is, the length of this movie was about 2.5 hours long, a little over. And they didn't dive deep into all the characters because there's two more movies coming out, one in 2027 and one in 2029, to finish off the Infinity Castle arc. But the characters that they did dive deeper into, I appreciated the lore and the amount of time they took to give backstory. I know a lot of people will complain about that because, a lot of people think it's detracting or taking away from like the other parts of the story or the other parts of the action. And I feel like in anime, it's very important to like break that up and give that backstory, to give a reason, a relatable reason why that person is fighting this person or why that person is doing what they're doing. And it was really cool because it wasn't just about the Hashira, the demon slayers. It was also about the demons themselves and why they were doing what they were doing. It really created a hero villain dynamic that I feel like a lot of things don't have necessarily. And that's the feeling of who is actually the hero and who is actually the villain. And would this person have made these choices if certain circumstances or certain scenarios or certain situations didn't happen in their life? And it makes you wonder. And I love that aspect of stories like this where you wonder what turning point, what event made this person eventually become this? And would it have been different if things were different for them? It really creates a more personal investment and a more personal aspect for this. And I absolutely love that in Demon Slayer Infinity Castle. And I'm sure it's going to flourish and show much more diversity and much more perspectives once I start actually watching the actual series. The fact that they just literally jumped into it and continued from where they left off, I didn't feel too lost, but I expected to feel lost a little bit because I hadn't seen any of the other stuff before. Granted, I didn't choose to see this by myself. I chose to see it with my daughter, who is interested in Demon Slayer, who has seen all of the media for it, all of the arcs and all of the TV shows and the whole series and everything like that. So she's up to speed. She knows everything that's going on. She had to explain a few things to me so I could understand. But yeah, I really did have a good time seeing it with her, and I just thoroughly enjoyed the movie. The fight scenes were really, really exciting, really well done. The fight scenes really did have a lot of feeling and emotion in them, and it just felt like each person was fighting for their purpose. And the 2D graphics with the CG added in there in some scenes with some of the effects and everything like that. I felt like that it struck a really really great balance between those two types of art, and it went really really well together. It created a lot of synergy with the attacks and how they looked, and some of those CG effects with the breathing techniques is what they're called. I had to learn about that too because I didn't know exactly what those techniques were. But you have the water breathing technique, the fire breathing technique, the thunder breathing technique, and those techniques were really really cool to see. And some of the synergy between some of the characters and how they used their techniques together was actually really really cool. It reminded me a lot about Dragon Ball, especially when Goku and Vegeta used their techniques together. And so seeing Demon Slayer and seeing the effects, the graphics, the art style, it was really really cool to see. Really refreshing. It had kind of a modern touch to a classic style. That's the best way I can describe it. And I really thoroughly enjoyed the visuals behind this movie. It made it really cinematic and really, really good looking. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. There were some corny moments in the show, or not the show, the movie, and it made me laugh. I don't think it took away from the experience at all. I can see how for some people it might, because they're in a very serious setting here. They're obviously out to slay demons, but they're in a setting where they're kind of stuck in this castle that's ever changing, that's always shifting and moving. And for them to stop and take a moment and just make really off color comments that are kind of cheesy, I can see why some people might be like, well, that was not needed. But if you're an anime fan, you know that sometimes those are inserted. There was like one or two moments where it was like really corny and cheesy. Other than that, there wasn't really, all of it was like serious, all of it was very genuine and emotional. So I feel like it didn't really detract or take away from the experience, but I can see why it would for other people. And I gotta say that Zenitsu was definitely my favorite character. Someone who's underrated, who it doesn't exactly show a lot of power until it's absolutely necessary and absolutely needed. And it was really cool to see that when I was learning about the breathing techniques and he was explaining to the demon that he was fighting, which was an old friend, actually someone he trained with, kind of spoiling things here, but I feel like it's been out long enough. People have seen it already, but he was they explained that about the technique, thunder breathing technique. There's the first form through sixth form. And Zenitsu only mastered the first form. The second through sixth form was mastered by the demon he was fighting, who wasn't a demon before, but he became a demon because he wanted to be more powerful, wanted to be better, because he felt like the training he was doing wasn't enough. So that being said, there's only technically 6 forms of thunder breathing. And he was fighting this demon, fighting his old friend here, and ends up being knocked down this hole, and he grabs onto a wall and starts to come back and does this really, really cool thunder breathing technique that's kind of mixed with fire. It's called the flaming god thunder technique, breathing technique, and slices his head off and tells him, yo, I just made the 7th form up. And I was like, what? That was one of the craziest moments in the movie for me. I loved that moment, and that moment actually kind of opened up my eyes and my emotions to truly absorb what was actually happening in the Demon Slayer universe here. And I just thoroughly started to enjoy the movie even more after that. Something else I really loved is the fact that they're doing a movie format of this. This is something you don't really see in anime. Usually when they do movies, it's usually like a one-off movie or a movie that is within the same universe, but is during a different time and doesn't really connect to to the main series necessarily, but with this one, this is obviously creating an arc in 3 different movies. So them going the movie route here and bringing it to the big screen, I think is a really good idea. It creates a different perspective. It creates a different there's a different creative process to this, because usually with Japanese mangas, it's better to do it in episodic format, which I can see how some people might be like, well, they're not going to be able to put all the content from the Infinity Castle arc into these movies well enough, and that they should have put it in episodic format in the first place. Yes and no. I feel like this is a risk, but at the same time, you can see by the numbers that the box office has, the fact that this has made $70 million in the opening weekend is crazy. I don't know exactly how much is made so far altogether. I can actually look that up real quick. Let's look that up real quick. Oh my goodness, 665 million worldwide, and it's still going. And it says right here, making it the highest grossing anime film of all time and the highest grossing Japanese film ever. It is also the 8th highest grossing film of 2025 globally. That's insane. Do you think they might made the right decision by going the movie route, the movie format? I think they did. But once again, I can see why some fans might not be a huge fan of this format. But being an anime fan and always seeing the episodes and all the filler episodes, all the really good episodes kind of put together, I feel like the creative process behind making these movies can really create a dynamic that is unique and different. And I feel like with this first one, they did a really, really good job. Now, since the other movies are coming out in 2027 and 2029, let's let them cook. This is their first movie in this arc. With this movie being this good and doing this well, there's so much more room for the ceiling of how much these movies can have an effect on the big screen. How much these movies can have an effect on the fans. Let's see what they can bring to us with these next 2 movies. With this being basically a guinea pig and testing this out, I feel like it's only going to get better from here. I really do. That's my hopes. I see the potential here, and I'm all for it. I really am. With it being in the movie format, I feel like it still has that anime charm, but also brings a cinematic feel to it, brings a cinematic spectacle to it. Once again, I'm here for it. I believe in this. I believe in this format. I believe they can do really, really well in the next 2 movies. Seeing what they did with this one, I'm very, very excited for the future of the Infinity Castle arc for sure. One of the most important things for me in a movie is, did they leave me wanting more? They most definitely left me wanting more. I did not want to leave the movie theater. This is one of the very few movies I've actually been tempted to actually go back and see in theaters. I usually don't like to spend that kind of money to go back and see a movie for a second time, because I know it'll eventually come out on a streaming service or in a way that I can consume it relatively free when it comes out on these streaming services. But I am actually tempted to go back and pay for another visit to see it again in theaters. So that's how good I think this movie is. And once again, you know, this movie left me wanting so much more. And the music is absolutely top tier, incredible. I'm a big gym guru. I love to go work out. And the music in this movie has become my new workout music for now. I'm gonna abuse it until I get tired of it, but right now it's actually like the best music I can ever listen to as of this moment to work out to. I absolutely love the beats, the tempo, the pacing of the music. It is just absolutely incredible where they placed the music in certain scenes to make the scenes really pop out. And I'm very, very excited to see what they bring in the next two movies as far as music goes. It's just absolutely incredible. But yeah, I usually don't take music like this and make it my workout music. If it's something that I can make into my workout music, it's really good. That's all I got to say. It's really, really good if I can make it my workout music. And then the last thing I want to speak on is, even though there is a main character, Tanjiro, I feel like they spend enough time on the other characters that it doesn't really take away from Tanjiro, but it doesn't, it also creates this dynamic where you don't feel like they're spending too much time on the main character. I love that each character gets their own spotlight, including Tanjiro, including the main character. And I feel like they balance that out pretty good. Like I said before, they didn't dive deep into every single character in this movie because they have two more movies coming out. We got to remember that. The depth they went into with the characters in this particular movie, I think they did a really good job, and it really created a dynamic where you feel like the main character isn't just the main focal point of the whole thing. It reminds you that he has a team of people or a group of people that he can rely on, and that it's not just him overpowering everyone. And so I love that they do that with this, and I'm excited to see how they use this dynamic in the series. My overall thoughts on this movie is this movie was fantastic. Let me know your thoughts on Demon Slayer Infinity Castle. Are you excited for the other movies in 2027 and 2029? Are you disappointed in this movie, or are you pretty much indifferent about it? But that's all I have to say. I'm out, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.